Watch this.
One of the most recognizable parts in Payette Lake will be auctioned off, with an expected large chunk of cash going to the gem state. It was a unanimous decision, but not everyone is happy about it. Fireworks season officially kicks off tomorrow.
We need to message this really loud and clear. No fireworks in those fire-prone areas.
I get there's a risk, but I don't believe in banning fireworks.
So are fireworks in the Foothills banned or not? Well, yes, but not everyone's in favor of it. We're losing pieces and parts of the Treasure Valley at a steady pace, but a Boise man is putting paint to canvas as a way to slow down the passing of time. You ever dreamed of owning a private island? I know what you might be thinking. White sandy beaches, crystal clear blue water. Well, this is not that. This island is in Idaho, and you could get your chance to own Cougar Island in the middle of Payette Lake, which is in the middle of Valley County. Idaho Department of Lands Board's commissioners voted to reaffirm their decision to auction off Cougar Island, which happens to be owned by the state. As you can imagine, there are strong opinions across the board on this decision. Supporters of the auction say it's a smart move financially. Auction off the land while the market is hot. Critics say selling the land, state land, to a private owner, well, that isn't fair, and they advocate for keeping the land public. Here's Joe Paris.
In the body of Payette Lake sits an island. Maybe you recognize this spot. It's called Cougar Island. The endowment land currently hosts one leaseholder, a family with a cabin on the island. But soon, this endowment land could become a private island, up for auction. In 2018, the Department of Lands approved the auction of Cougar Island as a way to maximize earning for beneficiaries of endowment land, namely Idaho Public Schools.
At yesterday's land board meeting, the board decided to stand fast with its earlier decision and will be bringing Cougar Island to auction later this fall.
Scott Phillips is Policy and Communications Chief for the Idaho Department of Lands. He explains, endowment land, like Cougar Island, is specifically set up to generate funds for beneficiaries. The land board is tasked with maximizing that return.
In this case, with one lessee on the property, it really is an underperforming asset given the value of that property. So the land board made the decision in a very public way in 2018, and then again rediscussing that in January and February of 2021 through the Payette Endowment Land Strategy to sell the parcel, bring it to auction, and do something different with the proceeds to earn more money for our school children.
Critics of the decision to auction off the island argue there are better ways to handle the situation. For example, Valley County commissioners, the advocacy group United Payette, and the Idaho Conservation League are hoping to acquire the land to prevent it from becoming privatized.
We'd like to hold off on this sale, give it a little bit more time, and see whether the county and Idaho Conservation League and United Payette, which is a coalition of organizations and interests around Payette Lake, can come together and identify some alternative approaches, whether it would be transferring it to the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec, working on a potential land exchange with the Forest Service, or potentially a conservation purchase that would keep those lands open to the public for future generations.
Jonathan Oppenheimer is the External Relations Director for the Idaho Conservation League. He says he understands the constitutional responsibility that the land board has to maximize earning on endowment land, but they feel auctioning off this island just isn't necessary.
We're concerned that selling off this gem of an island in the middle of Payette Lake is really sending the wrong messages and is ultimately going to end up in more no trespassing signs going up. There's been a lot of concern that we've seen over the last few years with large, wealthy landowners coming in and purchasing lands that have historically been open to the public, and we're afraid that this is just another example of that.
Supporters of the land board decision to auction off the island say that they are simply maximizing a hot real estate market opportunity to get a great return on the land. Right now, there's only a 0.6% return from the family leasing just a portion of the island.
The land board has a constitutional obligation under Article 9, Section 8 to generate long-term return for the beneficiaries.
So what about the family that has a cabin there right now on leased land? Well, they're working to try and buy the land that is going to go up for auction sometimes this fall. The Conservation League says that they're working with that family as a possible option and solution for acquiring the land.
We are working with the current leaseholder there to try to figure out, is there a way that we can come up with a package deal where he could contribute funds to purchase his lot, and other conservation-minded interests could acquire the remainder of the lot and basically continue to manage it for public access.
As we mentioned in this story, Valley County commissioners are against the idea of having the island sold for private interest. They are working right now to raise money alongside another set of groups to get the money, and the United Payette would likely be the group that buys the island, and then they would work out how it would work from there. But speaking this afternoon to Valley County Commissioner Sherry Maupin, she says the entire equation is very complicated right now because when you're raising money, number one, it's hard to do it as a county. Number two, it's hard to know how much money needs to be raised in an open auction format. You know, Brian, for example, if they were to raise just a large amount of money, something that they thought would be able to win the auction, and then on the day of the auction, they don't have enough money to win, you had raised all that money and you don't come away with anything. So it is a really complicated situation right now. It sounds like there is going to be the auction coming up in the fall. The September timeframe has been thrown around. Originally, it was going to be at the end of July, but it has been pushed back. Again, though, we are expecting to see this auction. It really will just be wait and see of who wins the auction and really who ends up coming to work together and figuring it out.
This part that he said, that Philip said, a constitutional obligation to generate long-term return for the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries would be people in the state, but as you said, specifically Idaho schools, right?
Yeah, so endowment land is a very specific type of land, and endowment land is specifically set up to create revenue, to create money for the beneficiaries. And the beneficiaries, it may sound like, oh, it's me and you, we're going to go use the land. Well, the technical beneficiaries of endowment land include Idaho public schools. So the money that would be used through this sale, a portion of that would go towards Idaho public schools. So it is a complicated equation. Endowment land is a very specific type of land, and that's what this happens to be. If Cougar Island was an endowment land, it likely would be a very different conversation we're having right now. But long story short is the land board, the Idaho Land Board, they have the responsibility to maximize the earnings. Critics say that now's not the time and they really don't need to sell this.
A delicate balance between capitalism and conservation, of course. Thanks, Joe.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
All right.
There you go. And there you heard off camera was that no, I should say, was from Ada County Commissioner Ryan Davidson. He was voting against renewing a resolution that would ban fireworks in areas of Ada County, but specifically fireworks in the foothills, you know, where the vegetation is, well, a fire hazard. Right now, you can see the foothills looking pretty green with all the rain we've been seeing this late season. Grass growing tall thanks to those late spring rains. Normally by this time, you know, they'd be kind of a brown tint, and they would be pretty flammable because of the lack of rain and temperatures more seasonal, you know, summer, like hotter. The rain has been great for farmers, but it's only added the fuel supply for potential wildfires this season, which is why every year around this time, Ada County commissioners vote to put a fireworks ban across a majority of the county. Here's what it looks like. Those red areas there, those are where the fireworks are not allowed at all, and that includes the foothills as you get above Boise, at any time of the year. The blue areas, you can shoot off fireworks, but only during limited times, and that would be beginning tomorrow when fireworks stands open through the 5th of July, the day after Independence Day. You can get a better look at this map if you go to Ada County website. We'll have a link in this story. But the purpose of the ban is to, well, at least offer a reminder and a deterrent to those who think fireworks in the middle of high and dry grasses is a good thing. Remember the goose fire last October? It tore through the foothills, threatening homes and burning about 450 acres.
The fire that we had out there that came really close to going up into the landfill was strictly as a result of fireworks. It was some kids playing with fireworks.
Well, banning fireworks in the foothills has been a yearly vote that for at least the last decade, it's been unanimous. Well, except for the last 2 years since Ryan Davidson has been a commissioner.
Mr. Chair, I would, I guess, argue that despite the ban, they still did the fireworks, and so I'm generally not in favor of banning much of anything. I think maybe if we had maybe designated areas, but I get there's a risk, but I don't believe in banning fireworks.
As you heard, he's not really much in favor of banning much of anything. He told us as much when we asked him about his vote the past 2 years, saying his libertarian views preclude him from being somebody who wants to ban something outright.
That's my default position. Obviously, I'm going to consider every issue independently, but I'm not predisposed to want to use the government to ban things, at least not without very serious discussion and consideration.
Like for something like littering, we have laws against littering. Do you think that that should not be something that's on our books?
No, I think littering should be illegal. I don't necessarily see that as being synonymous. But if your fireworks damage somebody else's property or cause a fire, then I think you absolutely should be liable for civil or criminal penalties.
Do you not agree that fireworks in the foothills and places like that could be a dangerous combination?
Well, yes, of course, there's some potential danger there, but from what I've seen, these kind of bans aren't really that effective. People are going to light off fireworks anyways. The fire we had recently near the landfill was, I believe, teenagers setting off illegal fireworks. And so the bans generally, I don't think are that effective in stopping fireworks in the foothills.
People don't make wise choices when they have them.
Americans don't make wise choices with a lot of things, but we still have to weigh freedom and personal responsibility over safety.
I think through 2012, up until last year, it was unanimous, but the last 2 years, it has not been.
Well, would you expect anything different from me?
I guess not. Well, instead of a ban, Commissioner Davidson said, we need to encourage people to use fireworks responsibly, and we need to punish people who cause a fire or damage with their conduct. Davidson said he told us, well, he finds it ironic, the symbol of our victory over an oppressive government and how we celebrate it, that would be fireworks, is being banned by, well, his words, oppressive governments across the country. Not in favor of using the government to ban things is what we heard him say. Yes, we did ask him about his views on abortion, and he said his views on that topic are evolving. All right, it's been said, and data backs this up, more crimes happen when it's warm out, like during the months of June, July, when more people are out and about. But also, around that time, our local law enforcement is out and about in more ways than you would think, and in places where you typically wouldn't expect them to try to stop such crimes. Here's Katya Stepovic.
It's officially summer in the Gem State.
Hello.
Couple that with a growing population.
Hi guys, go ahead. I love the green belt. I love the all the green space. I love the river.
And these days, hitting the green belt is a common to-do.
This is what I describe to people when I say how lovely it is here in the state.
Starting this summer, Paul Lim, Ada County Deputy Sheriff, traded his 4 wheels in for 2 smaller ones to get him around.
We're very well equipped. We're all trained the same as all the other officers that are on the street.
For the first time, Eagle Police Department established a special enforcement team, which does all their work outside.
We have been quite busy.
Lim is now patrolling the sidewalks instead of the streets.
The call of the citizens, what they needed on the green belt, not that people need to be enforced on the green belt, but there's rule violations. One of the major ones is dogs off leash. And there's not a lot of access to the green belt for vehicles. Where I have this bicycle and it's electric assist, and I can get there quickly and assess what's going on and give patient information and give them an exact location of where they're at. Us being there, it's huge. It's I think we've cut the factor down by seconds other than hours.
From bike trails, parks to the Greenbelt, Lim and his partner spend their summer days patrolling populated areas. And while some days are less exciting than others,
the most mundane things you would think of, we come across all the time.
The goal is to keep the Eagle community safe and remind people.
So we're out here. I'm lugging around 35 pounds, 40 pounds of extra weight, and it makes a difference out here that people see us actually doing something.
Now, this is actually not a pilot program, I'm told. It is permanent. During the winter, the 2 on the team will concentrate more on problem solving in neighborhoods and communities specifically. According to Ada County Sheriff's Office, the benefits for having a specialty unit like this frees up patrol all year round. Brian?
Yeah, and I can think of a lot worse ways to spend a summer, of course.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Katya. It was once a thriving and vibrant part of the Treasure Valley. It went away 7 years ago. Now its footprint is about to go, which is why one Boise artist is hoping to capture its beauty for the future. If you haven't already, now's the time to join the 208 conversation. Feel free to call and leave us a voicemail. You know we love those. Or you can send us a text message, and we might show yours at the end of the show. 208-321-5614 is the number, and we want to see your name and the hashtag the 208. That way we know it's for us, and we know who we're talking to. You can't stop time and you can't stop progress. We know that. Both have done their best to remove the remnants of our past across the Treasure Valley. Old buildings, specifically, reminders of what we used to be. Well, one Boise artist has taken it upon himself to capture those things in color and in detail. For the last several months, Chi Shinam Weston has put up his painter's box
I use
in a place
relatively simple palette.
that for the last 7 years
So basically I have red, blue, and yellow.
hasn't put up with much activity.
And it's wonderful to have a place where you could paint where it's quiet and just be left alone.
Chi Shinam's subject, the horse barns on the north end of Les Bois Park.
And I just want to catch all the small stuff that you don't see in photographs.
For decades during the summer, these breezeways were bustling.
And trying to catch this color in shadow.
A stable scene Chi Shinam has never seen.
No. I can imagine. Oh, I see an incredible beauty. Just hard work. People coming out year after year and different horses moving through. And, you know, I kind of see the story of a life out here. And so when I'm painting, I'm trying to capture that feeling. So right now, this is just tiny detail work just to capture the real feel of the place that's been used, no longer pristine. Some of them have more boards, some of them go all the way up. Some of them have been eaten on by the horses and some not. And so they're all very, very different. If we wanted it perfect, we would just take a photograph. And we don't need that. We're trying to paint what it feels like.
Chi Shinam has an eye for feelings.
I think part of it is that the type of life we're leading right now does not have room for reflection.
And that sentimentality is why he's made old structures like this his mission.
A couple of years back, I was spending a lot of time painting over on Eagle Island. And I finished this beautiful painting. It was about this size, really nice, of one of the buildings out there. And I went back the next week to paint another angle of it because it was just so perfect. The building was gone. And I went, what happened? What are they doing? And that's when I started looking around and realizing things are disappearing and I didn't even notice. Painting old fence lines that are full of weeds, they're gone. They're really hard to find now. Any of these old places, they're getting torn down. And so I started looking for that, looking for the places that are disappearing.
So that maybe they can find another life in acrylic on canvas.
Just to record them and say, hey, this is where we live. This is our home. And nowadays, this is going to be our memories.
Those stalls were supposed to be torn down this summer to make room for Lady Bird Park being moved over in that spot. But the schedule for their demolition has been delayed and likely won't happen until this fall. Still, they won't be there much longer. Weston's work can be seen, though, if you want to take a look at it, on the next first Thursday, and that would be July 7th in downtown Boise. He has studio space in the Alaska building on Main Street. He plans to do a few more of these smaller paintings over the next several months, and then over the next couple of years, or next year or so, he says he hopes to make 6 larger paintings. If you want to get your hands on some of those, get some hands on the history of the Treasure Valley as well. All right, a quick reminder, here's how you can connect with us here on the 208. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube. In fact, you can watch entire shows you don't see during the day at 5 o'clock. You can watch them on YouTube. You can also email us at the208@ktvb.com. And of course, you can always leave us a voicemail as well, 208-321-5614. We love those. Keep them coming. We'll get to those in a bit. All right, let's get to your comments for today. Department of Lands has always wanted to sell off all these endowment lands. A static sale is not long-term maximization of revenue. Maximizing of the revenue. They know that, says Lynn in Meridian. Here's an idea, though. Why can't Parks and Rec turn the island into a theme park? For instance, Gilligan's Island with huts, fire pits, playgrounds, etc., says Aaron. That's one way to make money off of it, I guess. Let me get this straight. Commissioner Davidson doesn't think it's the responsibility of elected public officials to protect the community in this case, fire, and also in the case of CDH, to now not inform the public of potential dangers because he voted for Dr. Cole and Raul Labrador to the CDH board, who now want to remove recommendations for masks and vaccines. The 208, typical libertarian response. Don't tell me what I can and can't do. Every man for himself, which would only work if everyone is smart and responsible for themselves, which, of course, we all know is never reality, says Steve, which is why we do have rules, little guardrails when it comes to any of our freedoms. Hopefully he has made his position on banning things known to those who want to ban books, says Sheila. Freedom from oppression, indeed. That's a good point there as well. I agree with Commissioner Davidson. Americans often don't make wise decisions. That's how he was elected, says Rod in Boise. I don't think that's Commissioner Rod Beck, though. I'm going to say that's not. I'm just going to put that out there. It's probably not Commissioner Rod Beck who texted the show. Thanks for everyone who did. We'll see you back here tomorrow.